See, one thing that's happened in the country and probably almost everywhere, particularly in this country, is building industry and ecology are supposed to be against each other. This is something that we must change because that is not the future, how it's going to function. Future is very important that building and ecology must be friendly to each other. When I say friendly to each other, right now, as you know, almost all the cities are going through either floods or through droughts, they have water shortages and they have floods all the time. One season you need a boat, another season you you need an oil rig, not a regular borewell, because water is going below 1,500 feet So, this is the constant dilemma that's happening. One important thing I would request and beseech all the builders is, wherever you make concrete pathways and concretized walkways and things, they must have sufficient percolation holes. It is not necessary everybody should walk on a smooth surface. You can always make it in such a way that it absorbs water, because this is one of the key things. The reason why cities have become very destructive is simply because the rainwater, because that's the only source of water we have in this country. If it was, let us say, we had snowfall or whatever, snow would sit for 2 months and slowly percolate into the earth. We don't have such a thing, we just have monsoon rains. When rains come, if it flows horizontally, we have lost it. It has to percolate. For this we need plantations and above all, concrete surfaces except the living areas has to have holes in it, has to have sufficient percolation spaces. All the parking lots, walkways, roads inside the development, all of them must have sufficient opportunity for the water to sink in. If that is not there, developments, large developments will naturally be perceived as anti-ecological well-being. So, having said this, as we already mentioned, we have 1.4 billion people. The land on which these 1.4 billion people is definitely not sufficient to have enough forests, enough rivers, enough lakes and all this. Compared to, let's say, North America, if you're taking North America as a standard, we are nowhere near that kind of land space. This is super congested in many ways. One important thing is to spread them out, and if this, as we mentioned earlier, if daily travel and commuting on the road is brought down. I was… a couple of years ago, I was near San Francisco, then I had an event in San Francisco Club. The top business in San Francisco area, about 250 business leaders were there and I was to speak to them, and I was driving. Then I'm seeing the side on which I'm driving also the traffic is thick, and the opposite side also the traffic is thick. So when I went there, all these business leaders, I asked them, what is our problem? People who live here work there, people who live there work here. What is our problem? I live here, why don't I work here? And somebody lives there, why don't they work there? No, he lives there and works here, I live here and work there. This is our problem. Because unplanned development of cities have happened, it is time to restructure this, because the number of people on the road, the amount of life that is lost in terms of time, the amount of energy that is wasted, amount of fuel wasted, and above all the nuisance. Those of you who live in Bangalore, Irfan Bhai knows this very well He's right now sitting on the golf course near Nandi Hill, he's very happy now. But if he gets into the city, it doesn't matter what you're driving, it's a misery. Because simply too many people are on the road unnecessarily. When I say unnecessarily, why is everybody traveling in every direction? Because the fundamental thing is, it's planned like this, those who work here live there, those who live there work somewhere else. So, this has to change. In a planned way, we have to change. It's not easy, that it's not going to happen overnight, but if we start thinking in this direction, then ecological concerns can be addressed. And above all, vertical growth of the cities is most essential. Most people, our ecology activists are there, they will complain about everything because they don't understand a thing. But if you have substantially tall buildings, you can create a whole lot of open spaces, lots of trees. This is most important. As you know, so you're in Delhi, so you know this is the only city where we can see the air we breathe. I hear that now you cannot see it, you're able to see Himalayas or something, that's fantastic. So I'm saying too many people who are not some race drivers or something, they're not people who are enjoying their drive, they just desperately want to get to their workplace. They're all driving their own personal vehicles, which is risk of life, inefficient way of driving, and putting them to lot of stress and anxiety of trying to get there on time. And you see how it is. Anybody you can hardly see a car which is not dented these days in our cities. It has some dent, that means everybody is bumping each other and screaming at each other, cursing each other. It's a wrong culture we're building altogether. It's very, very important that city should be a pleasant place to live. I remember Bangalore city 40 years ago and how it was, what a nice, pleasant thing it was. We used to ride from Mysore on motorcycles, come to Bangalore, Mahatma Gandhi Road was a racetrack for us but today, how it's become. So, further as economy improves, people want to live better, that means, live better means most people want to own a home where you will provide, and most people want to have a car. And the roads are simply impossible for the population that we have. If everybody drives one car, it's simply impossible. You cannot even provide a parking space for all the cars. So it's important that most people who just want to go to some place, they're not trying to enjoy their drive, such people should have mass transport to get there, very efficient mass transport, easy to get there without risking their lives. The number of people who are dying on the street, every year about 140,000 people are dying on the Indian roads. These 60 days, their lives have been saved, that's one good thing that's happened. And every 12 minutes, a limb is lost in the country. Every 4 minutes, there is a fracture in the country. The WHO at one time said, India is trying to become a major economy, but by some 2030, they estimated some 17 or 18% of Indian people will be crippled just by road accidents. So how are you going to build this economy with so many crippled people is a question that they raised at that time. So a lot of people here in Coimbatore and Chennai, they're trying to raise this awareness and try to make roads safe. But how to make it safe when there is no alternate means of transport, or when there is a compulsion, everybody has to drive to get to his work? How do you make it safe? It doesn't work like that. So ecologically concerned city, one important thing is we must take care of the soil and the water. If we do not take care of the soil, we cannot take care of the water, let's understand this. So if those two things must be taken care of, right now the streets are flooding. Why are city roads always smooth? They need not be. They can be like how you make concrete lattice. It can be like that, it'll make some rumbling noise, but it's okay, but the water will get soaked into the earth, which is most important for a city. Otherwise, your trees will not grow, nothing will be there, and soil will not be rich. Taking care of the soil and water, not two different things. If you take care of the soil, water is naturally taken care of. If that happens,